Hi, welcome to episode 5 of the Horror Score movie review.
I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Jesse. This week we're doing Ivan Kavanaugh's The Canal. Now, you're probably wondering, why is it on the table? Where's the movie?
Oh no, I bet they're stealing, pirating movies, torrent. No, we're not. So sometimes we pick movies from streaming services like Shudder, Amazon Prime, Netflix, but this movie is actually available both on Shudder and Amazon Prime as of April 27th.
April 27th, yeah.
So it should be, if you get on it now, it should still be available if you end up wanting to watch it at the end of this segment.
Alright, so want to jump into it?
We might as well.
Yeah. So what do you think of the movie?
Well, we picked this movie. We have not seen it.
This was our first watch. Yeah, good call. First watch.
We just we narrowed it down after reading descriptions and basically looking at movie covers and titles to 3 movies. That's usually how we pick our movies. Neither of us have to have seen it, and we landed on The Canal because it had a spooky kind of folklore description to it that I was interested in.
I see this movie as a combination of a couple of movies. Like, I don't know, we talked about it like partway through. I feel like this movie is a combination of if you took Silent Hill and The Babadook, and then just like a little bit of maybe Amityville or The Ring, like sort of mushed them all together. It was a little bit like that. It was a little surreal at times. It was an interesting combination of the bunch.
I would argue that it was a bit like Amityville horror.
I mean, I wrote down Amityville at first, and then I scribbled it out, and then later when I was like, all right, well, yeah, that did have like a sort of an Amityville vibe to it.
So, do you just want to jump into story?
Yeah, let's go. Let's just start analyzing this movie and scoring it, because that's what we do here on Horror Score.
And we are against spoilers. So, in all of our reviews, you won't be getting like big plot reveals and that kind of thing, because if we do want you to watch it, like we want you to watch it.
Right, but the comments below are a spoiler zone potentially. So if you don't want any spoilers, be careful reading any of the comments down there. So we score this movie on 5 categories on a scale 1 through 20, possibly 0 through 20. We haven't had a movie score 0 in any category yet, but I think it's
per
potentially
category.
possible.
It's 20 points per category with a total possibility of 100 points.
So our first category is story, plot, characters. What'd you come up with?
I gave it a 12. It wasn't the most imaginative plot. Like you said, you just compared it to at least 4 or 5 movies. So it's something that we have kind of seen before. But I gave it more points because it was like very clear, well defined plot lines and that kind of thing that were easy to follow. So with horror films, that's not always what you get.
I gave it an 11 out of 20. It held my attention all the way through. I was able to follow what was going on, but again, with one exception, there wasn't any like wow factors where I was like, oh no. Mm-hmm. Wait, 2 exceptions, but one was because of a later category.
Yeah. So yeah, 12 out of 20, 11 out of 20. Villain. I think this villain, bad guy, demon, had a lot of potential. I think it had a lot of, especially because it's based on, this is an Irish film, so it was based on kind of like an Irish folklore thing. I think the demon had a lot of potential, but he just simply wasn't in enough scenes, and his backstory wasn't kind of covered enough for me to really like have a firm grasp on him, so I gave it a 10.
I did give the villain a 12 out of 20. When we see this kind of monster, you're always wondering, like, is it in the guy's head? Is this monster really following him? Is it a ghost? I'm not really sure yet. I better keep watching the movie. Mm-hmm. But when it was on screen, I thought it had like a very nice like raw general like creep factor, and I wanted to know more about it, so I gave it a 12.
Exactly. So horror. So this is kill counts, creative kills,
scares,
spooks,
spookiness.
Yeah. And I love spookiness. But I gave it a 12. There is in this film what I would call the horror toilet. There are a few scenes that are so unexpected. There are some jump scenes, and there are some jump scares, and there are some scenes that are not for weak stomach people, and they kind of come out of nowhere. So there's no warning there.
Well, I gave it an 11 out of 20. There's a brutal stabbing.
It was awesome.
You know,
it was so early in the movie too.
Yeah, there's a part where there's a crack in a wall that's like pretty scary.
That was more movie opinion.
Well, let's move on to artistry then. That's our fourth category.
I gave it a 16 because it was fun to watch. There was a lot of great music, and at one point, like you said, like the house gets like ripped open, and
there's like things trying to like push their way through from the other side.
In the canal, there's like this great sewer chase scene that's spooky. It's kind of like otherworldly. It's like a gateway to hell, but it's like in a sewer, so it's pretty disgusting.
And there's also a very graphic practical effect near the end of the movie as well.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Not for the...
Yeah, I gave that a 14 out of 20 in that category.
It's rough. And there were some cool shots, too. Like, this is another cinematography.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing.
Fun.
Yeah.
Like, that scene that's shot, like, from below, basically, when they've got their ears on the glass against the wall, and it's shot from underneath them. I thought that was neat. S Factor.
And if you're unfamiliar with that, if this is your first time watching an episode, this is sort of our X Factor. We've decided to call it S Factor, as Jess and Vanessa, Ness. We just shortened it down, really, to just ESS. This is the S Factor, which is stuff like camp,
nudity,
humor,
nudity,
originality,
naked bodies.
This movie did have some naked bodies.
It did. There was some graphic sex in this.
There was a little bit of sex.
That was unexpected.
Well, I gave this an S Factor of 11 out of 20. There was like pretty much no humor, but even though it was kind of felt like 4 other movies, there was some originality. And again, the nudity, sex scenes, no camp. No,
they took it very seriously. Which, they did well. Like the soundtrack was great, modern, was good. I gave it a 12. I thought it was cool that it was based on Irish folklore. I wish they would have done more with that. Graphic sex, like I said. But the best part of this movie for me, like I said earlier, I only gave the story a 12 because it wasn't the most imaginative storyline. I thought the ending was wonderfully unexpected.
I was like, are they going to do... No, they're not going to do that. And then like, oh.
And they did. They did.
That's the ending.
And I was so pleased. It was just like, and one for the road.
Yeah.
The movie's like tidying up, like they're sweeping the floor to like...
Not a surprise ending, but a shocking ending.
Yeah.
It was a shock ending. We're like, oh, okay. That's how the movie ends, I suppose. I was pleased. And
the way it was told, I guess, like through the filming.
Yeah.
Were like those little backstories in between. Anyway.
So this is where we mentioned that there were no animals on screen that were harmed in the movie. And if we ever don't mention it, also if we forget, that just means there was none.
Great. Yeah.
So if we don't bring it up, usually we'll try to mention it, but if we don't, it just means there was no animals. Were no animals harmed.
I love my horror and my gore, but if I see... I'm kind of like an immediate turn, like switch off person. If I see or think or there's like an inkling of like just gratuitous, like unnecessary animal or like child violence that doesn't really fit in with the plot, that's not really my taste or my style. I'm more about potty humor. That's really...
Don't let her watch Spookies. I can't wait till we review Spookies. It'll just be a camera.
I'm not going to be able to do it. So here's the part of the review where I give my 1-sentence synopsis. This one's pretty easy. A cuckold with a live-in nanny never goes to work.
Okay. Would you pair this movie with any drink in particular?
Definitely one of my favorite drinks because it is absolutely slammed in this particular movie. A gin and tonic. There's a scene where they're at like a work party kind of thing, and he's suspicious that his wife might be sleeping with one of her coworkers, and he gets this gin and tonic from the bar and just starts going to work on it. And so that's what I would recommend.
Let's take a look at our total scores. Mine combined leaves me I did not pre-do the math. Did you do yours? Math break. That leaves me with a 59, I believe, for this movie. What'd you come up with?
I gave it a 62. It really had the makings of a good movie that was gory at points.
So that puts us at a 61...
60.5.
60.5. So there you have it. We gave it a 60.5 overall. I enjoyed it. It was my first watch.
Both of us.
Yeah. I would watch it again. I'd like to give it like a year or so. Put a little distance between myself and how fresh it is in my mind. Then if someone's like, do you want to watch that? Like, yeah, I'll watch the Canal again. Let's give it a try.
I would really like to watch this film against or next to like other Irish horror films because I'm not really well versed in it, and that's kind of what intrigued me about this movie. So I just want to see if there are any sort of quirky similarities between that particular country's horror.
And oddly enough, when I think back to all the scenes in this movie, my brain has replaced the actor with Ethan Hawke in every scene. I don't know why.
He does have like a very like chameleon face. Or just imagine with Ethan Hawke.
No, or imagine it with Ethan Hawke, who was in Sinister, right? Maybe that's why I'm remembering some bits of Sinister in there. I don't know. But that's pretty much all for now. You decide if you want to check this movie out or not. As like we said, it's streaming on Shudder. And we'll see you next time.
I'll watch it again. Stay spooky.